So moving into that, your entrepreneurship journey, corporate life has structure, it's got predictability, entrepreneurship doesn't. What surprised you when you made that shift? At the moments you thought, oh my God, I feel so blocked, and how did you move forward?
I think the biggest lesson of the transition is nobody's coming. Is that you are the CEO, you are chief everything officer. You have to have your eye on from marketing to procurement, all the corporate functions we know so well. And you start to appreciate what a corporate organization, how comfortable, despite all the politics, despite all the things that we blame, how it's slow and politics, so on and so forth, but you felt always soft. Someone is always there to catch. Only entrepreneurship, especially when you start as a solopreneur, we started as a duo. There's one person to catch you probably. And that's it. No one is coming to you. So you better up your game.
Welcome to Reinvention by Design, the podcast for corporate leaders and high performers who know the world of work is changing and who are choosing to future-proof their careers, identity, and income. I'm Karen Holland, and each week I'll take you behind the scenes of reinvention, the real stories, the decisions that changed everything, the practical steps to build new paths, and the mental barriers that can hold even the most successful people back. I'm not talking about abandoning your career, but about something far more powerful, building skills, creating options, and future-proofing your life. Because in today's world, your greatest security is no longer your job. It's your ability to reinvent. Today, I'm joined by someone who truly understands reinvention, Jingjin Liu. From making a Super Bowl decision to move as a teenager from China to Germany, to building a high-impact global career in the automobile industry, to stepping into angel investing, entrepreneurship, and more recently co-founding the Elevate Group, her journey is a powerful example of designing your life intentionally. We're going to explore what it really takes to reinvent, from identity and mindset to preparation, networks, and taking action. Jingjin, a warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen.
Awesome. Look, I'd love to start at the beginning because your story of reinvention started actually very early on. You've shared how growing up in China, you often felt different, more extroverted, more outspoken than your peers. And at a young age, you made the decision to move to boarding school in Germany. I'm curious, what was going through your mind at that time, and what gave you the courage to make that leap?
It's so interesting from a different person's eye, especially means a lot to me when someone I respect a lot, like you, saying that what's the courage and the reinvention. And I think back then, I wish it was a courage and bold move and all the buzzword. But back then, it was running away from something. And I want to be very honest, I felt so stuck and so desperate and so hopeless in a way, especially as a teenager. I was 15 when I made that decision in China, in the environment, and I have to go somewhere. Yeah. And I felt Germany, I had a certain relation. My parents were in Germany when they studied in Germany as the first generation Chinese sent by the Chinese government. And I had a very vague idea of how Germany could be, although I've only been there when I was 8. So it was a purely let me running away from something. It's not running towards. So, so it's not a courage story. It's a courage story, maybe it just happened to turning into something that because of the change of the environment, I probably was at the bottom of where I could be. Anywhere else probably will be a leap upwards. And it happened to be Germany, if I'm honest.
But at the same time, that experience probably taught you a lot about the importance of choosing the right environment for you as a person rather than trying to fit in the wrong one, right? So maybe you can comment on that. So even though it was not by design in a way, you learned a lesson from it.
Yeah, no, I think I'm very fortunate that that the leap was the right one for me. I want to share this story.
Yeah.
Just for example, the reason that I felt stuck in China is that my nature, like you shared at the beginning, I'm an extroverted person. I laugh a lot, and I am genuinely curious, and I am a very hands-on person, not an academic person. Street smart, let's put it this way. And in the academic environment back then in China, we are talking about the time this was year 2000. So I'm a kid in the 80s, and back then China was all about academic excellence. As a girl, you should be calm. You should be beautiful. You should have white skin. You should be introverted, and you should be obedient, but not in a bad way. Obedient as in just a good girl. In most of the Asian culture, I would say, and I am simply not that person. And as much as I try to, shrink or adapt myself into that mode, I just recognize it make you even worse. And I remember I was buying a skin whitening cream, just to make me look fairer, and it looked so bad because it was so fake. And I look at the mirror. I remember I think I was 13. I look at the mirror. I was like, I think that was probably my first idea of, okay, you cannot fit in because it look worse. You try to be white where where it was considered as a beauty standard, and you think you will be liked, but the result was much worse than if you would have just kept who you are. I think that was maybe the first reckoning. You can't shrink yourself externally, and you definitely can't adjust or shrink yourself internally.
You have
and
to be
therefore, I think
true to yourself, and in an environment where you feel you can thrive, which you didn't feel like you could do that at that time.
Yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
And I think it's very interesting because you then went on in Germany and built a really incredible career actually in Germany, in a very tough environment, very male dominated environment, automobile industry. You were correct me if I'm wrong, the only Asian woman, the youngest senior executive. And so, from the outside, it looks like the definition of success, right? So curious, what was happening beneath the surface though? When did you start to think, maybe this isn't the path for me?
I think I always felt that was the path to me. Because I'm going to be very honest, because I felt, because of my upbringing, the Asian upbringing, and the worthiness and the power, and especially I felt so powerless in China. And when I moved to Germany, one promise I made to myself in 15 said, I don't want to be powerless, whatever that means. Okay. And in China, it meant to be, to be good in school, be a good girl, and to be liked. In Germany, it actually meant to be, to be assertive, to establish yourself among your European peers. I didn't speak German, all that. And I also recognize, success also means you have to make a career, and you have to be powerful. I see I went to a boarding school. I see my friends' parents, they drive expensive cars. They are the corporate executive, something. I had a very vague idea that I wanted to be powerful. So I actually followed that path without the deep understanding what that mean. So I embarked a very male-dominated domain deliberately, because I knew that back then there was only 10% of any women in that space, let alone have studied industrial engineering, and let alone being Asian. So I was the triple only in many, many things, which would give you a extraordinary edge. Because you are different. I always thought, because you are different now, that you can establish yourself and thrive, which was what happened actually during my corporate career, because I was so different.
A differentiator for you. What had previously been something that you stayed away from became a differentiator, actually. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you use that card right, and I mean, among I remember with all the corporate, when we're sitting on the table, we had a big Daimler meeting, and we have 20 senior executives, and being really the only woman, only Asian, only everything, it actually didn't intimidate me. I felt, oh, if anyone want to hear anyone talking, they better want to hear me talking. And I think that the interesting thing is, it might not be true, but because I always felt that way, you present yourself very differently as well. Because I entered the room being very cocky and saying, if not me, who else? Look at all you white guys. I won't remember any of you, how you look, how you spoke, but you will always remember me. So I felt this was always this distinguished edge. If you use it right as a woman, it gives you so much advantage.
You did move out of corporate at one stage, and we'll talk a little bit more about the preparation later. But later on, you co-founded the Elevate Group with Uma, and it's such a purpose-driven business. Just curious, what was the personal experience, and maybe it was the experience in Germany, or the insights that made this mission feel so important to you?
Yeah. I think for helping women to progress in the workplace, whether it's entrepreneurship or corporate, has always been a passion and calling.
Yeah.
And because I was always the only, and I got to work with very few women, and with a lot of men from across the world. And if I can be very black and white, the majority of women I've worked with, they are so invisible. They are so good in what they are doing. They are genuine, kind, and they carry so much load. The mothers I've worked with, the people that I have worked with, where they have caregiving responsibilities, despite of all these things, they are excellent in what they do. But they got maybe the crumb of the cookie when it comes to power and position, and compared to many less qualified and less everything men. And I'm not, and by no means I'm blaming men, but I always felt this unjust in my blood that how could that be? And I'm very often angry with the women. I mean, how can you have children and then decide not to embark your corporate career? And how can children, pull you back until I become a mother, for example? And to understand how, how much at stake are there for women, how difficult it is actually for women to strive in the workplace that is designed for men, by men. And the success story that I am so proud of myself is an absolute exception, where the norm, if you put myself as a corporate speaker and saying, oh, look at my stellar career I've made, I can't be that proud because I didn't have children pulling me back. I didn't have, aging parents back then I had to care for. And all I wanted was to make a career, which is not the standard for majority of the women. And I was so positively power hungry. I wanted to be the first female Chinese CEO running a German DAX registered company. I had that ambition and I wanted, and because I was so ambitious, I didn't fear any judgment.
Yeah.
I didn't fall into any likability trap, whereas majority of the women just couldn't, because it's not their upbringing and they are not that power hungry. And therefore, I think just factually to see what women are capable of compared to how far they could come, it's just such an unjust that I want to change.
I mean, I love that. You really want to kind of reshuffle the deck of cards so that it's fairer for women and they can step up and really shine and get the roles that they rightly deserve. I think that's amazing. I've had a lot of connection with your group, and I think you're doing fantastic work.
Thank you.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the preparation that happened before each of the reinventions, because things often don't happen by chance. And one thing I really admire about your particular journey is how intentional your reinventions have been. So, for example, when you were in the corporate world and you held a very senior role, you negotiated a sabbatical while you were still there in the company and invested your time in getting your MBA. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, what was the thought process about preparing yourself before then taking that leap as you did into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think intentional is the right word. But I think I have to be very honest. Back then, I didn't understand it enough. I think I wanted to I didn't have children back then, but I want to leverage. I had a very unique position. I know the company could not live without me. They can't live without anybody, but I have intentionally designed the setting in a way they actually can't afford to lose me at that stage of we're involved in the acquisition and so on. And so I knew that I was in a very unique position.
Strong
That's
position.
one. Exactly. And then I think I wanted to do this MBA for a very, very long time because I don't have a business background. And I always felt much less when I am at the senior table. I bring all the technical expertise, but when it comes to numbers, I always felt I could only fake it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. So, and I say I wanted to have a MBA degree from a Ivy League school. And it has to be somewhere that I don't have to travel all the way to the US, or it still need to be in Europe. And and then I had this negotiation in my annual review every year. I said, I want to do this soon. So within 3 years, I have always addressed this, but also as in, it is good for you. You need to put me there because I'm going to be one of your senior executives, and you want to make sure that someone with the diversity, with the quota, you want to make sure she is set up to success. And as a stock registered company, you want your C-suite to look stellar on the CV as well. So I didn't have an Ivy school background at all. So I kind of leveraged the cards, as in me being on your C-suite pipeline will make you look good. And in order to do that, either you pay the MBA for me or you give me the time off. That was kind of how the MBA, how the negotiation happened.
I love that. I mean, it was really win-win on both sides. They needed you, but it also gave you the possibility to change direction should you wish to do so, right? So it was very, very
It's a big bargain as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, they could have said no as well. And then you cannot back off from your choices as well.
True,
So you have to bring all the intention, all the energy, and the absolute audacity, which I wish more women would have, to assert your value and negotiate your, saying this is what I'm worth.
I love that. I mean, the power of negotiation. And you also did that when you moved into your MBA in a way. I've often heard you say, make friends before you need them. And when you were there doing your MBA, you had the possibility of creating a very powerful network, actually.
Yeah.
People who would then help you later in your journey. So how did you approach building that network? Was it very intentional, or did it happen by chance? I'd love to kind of get your views on that.
Yeah, I think network is something that women massively underestimate and underinvest in. There is simply no time. There is the 9 to 5 and the 5 to 9. When do you get to network? And unfortunately, this is something that is like an insurance. And then when you need them, you don't have them, and you kind of fell through. So for example, I knew to embark a executive MBA. It's not about the knowledge, it's about who you are in the room with. Like many like the people that have power and privilege and resources that you simply wouldn't have across the world. So the first thing I did, for example, when we got after the admission, they give us actually the CV book from this cohort. I studied every single person, on their LinkedIn profile, or Googled them, and I selected actually 3 batches, saying the people that I want to be in touch with this was an 18 months journey. So should I decide not to go back in the 18 months and build something on my own, I was not that aware yet, but I have it kind of in my head. So I want to embark the entrepreneur journey. The first batch. The second batch is that should I decide to go back? Who are the ones that should I move out of the industry? Move country? Who are the ones that I want to keep in touch with? And the last ones are the ones, I would say, you don't know what to do with them yet. You should keep them. They're very interesting, but they are not that relevant to what you want to achieve in the next 18 months.
Yeah.
So park them. And then I started to schedule, the one-on-ones without, intentional. No? There is always a want, as in I want to understand your journey. How did you become one of my savior, who is the CEO of one of the famous Australia football team? I was like, how did that journey go? It's so interesting to be a CEO of football team, because the P&L is actually the same. So which he shared with me, and he said, if you want to be a CEO, you can be a CEO in any kind, because the basics are the same. One thing that I learned from him, for example. So I think to craft your network intentionally is very important, and it does not need to feel like, oh my God, such a big chunk of the work. What I did is I spent 30 minutes every week only, that I say, okay, this 30 minutes, I want to be intentional. I booked the meeting with this one. I design it very intentionally. And then I crafted the questions I want to ask them. I want to sit down with them. And what is the ask? What is the follow-up? And that compound. So at the end of our, at 6 months mark, I met everyone almost twice in the first basket, and then maybe once with the second basket.
It's such a great tip and insight, actually, that I love the way you planned it, but you approached it from a point of view of curiosity. You wanted to get to know these people, hear their stories, and very, very powerful. And especially for people listening who really hate networking and they don't want to do it. What's one thing that you would kind of advise them to get started? That's something easy that they can do to just get started.
Yeah, I think that there's no easy way, because you have to get out of that whatever is saying why you shouldn't do out of your head. Yeah. I think this is a easy said than done. So the one thing is just get started. There is no shortcut. You go to LinkedIn, you just get that person that you should meet. And I would do it, especially when you are introvert, when you are not that, you reaching out feels like a big thing. A good way to do that is that you should do a map of things, like whatever goal you want to achieve, who are the people you should meet. First degree, second degree, last degree. You start with the last degree, the people that are not that important, just to get into the exercise. It's like job interviews,
get into the
right?
groove.
You want to, so you start with the job that you actually don't want, just to get into the interview routine again. So you reach out to someone, whether you meet them or not is not that relevant. You exercise there. Then you write them something, and then you follow up. Then you tweak and adjust your message accordingly to prep yourself to follow up with the one, or to ultimately meet the ones that you want to meet. I think that's probably the easiest to start with.
Start with a training ground. Love it. Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing that I noticed in terms of your journey is you talk a lot about financial preparation, right? And how does financial security change the way you think and act during a reinvention? So, for example, when you moved into entrepreneurship, how were you thinking about financial security?
Yeah, I think to know your number, like by the last digit, is very, very important. And I believe, I don't have data to back me up, but majority of women, at least I work with, don't know their number. I bet with you, say, what's your monthly spending? And they think they know. And the reality is usually, I would say 20 to 30% more than they think. And especially when they have a partner, when they are married, they have kids, and they are not the main breadwinner. Maybe they co-share, or they have less important job. Let's put it this way. They often just don't know their number well. And if you don't know your number well, how can you plan any? It's like running a corporate P&L. you have no idea where you go towards to. For example, if you want to start anything, let's say entrepreneurship or any small businesses, if you don't know what's your runway, how do you know, okay, do I spend money on building a web page? How do you make the major decision? Do I trade money with time or vice versa? Can I afford to build this? And for me, at least, it's very daunting to know. I actually don't know how much runway I have because I don't know my expenses. So the first thing I've done is that when I decided, okay, to leave with my compensation package, with the money in the bank, with the stock, with everything, what is cash? What is my monthly spend? And what is my comfortable life spending? And what is now, okay, no corporate career spending now. There are some fixed spending with the kids, and you don't have to go to restaurant every second day. So what is to know the range?
Yeah, the range
is so important so that you can say, okay, for me I knew it was a year. It was a solid year that I can easily move across. So it's also not just a good thing in the sense of because I was so less careful because I knew there was a year. At the beginning of my entrepreneur journey, what this was not with Elevate, was with my second business, Zazazoo. It was, I spent a lot of money on building things, which was unnecessary because I know that I have a long runway. Whereas then my third business was the Elevate Group. And okay, I was much more intentional in, okay, what do you spend on things? Because I know the runway is shorter now. So I think there's an up and downside.
Know your numbers. Yeah, fantastic. I think there's another aspect to reinvention as well, and it's super important, and that's mindset and some of the inner barriers that we all sometimes face. And, I've heard you say that overcoming yourself is actually the biggest opportunity that we have. So is there one recurring mindset or belief that you've had to work through in your reinventions?
I think it's, there are so many of them, and it's still come back to you are not good enough with what you are doing. It's very strange, if I even during this recording or I'm looking at myself and saying that, it's a very weird thing because I know it's factually not true.
It's not true.
It is so beyond the truth, but it's still holding me back, especially when things don't go my way.
Yes.
And what I learned is to let that, I'm not pardon my friend, to let that little bitch just to sit on the side. To not to fight her, to say, it's okay, you can have your opinion, but I'm going to do it anyway. It might fail, but it has nothing to do with what you said. It might succeed, but it does not prove you're wrong. It does not prove you're right. You have no standing, in my life anymore, but you play the role. So sit here, it's okay, but let me ignore you to the extent, but I acknowledge you. I think that's probably the at this stage of my life, the best that I could do with that little voice.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it's a bit like saying when the mind says no, it's time to go, right? You've got to, kind of got to get over it. And I think that's an important piece of advice for anyone who's feeling stuck, because especially when you move into something that's brand new, like entrepreneurship, you can feel stuck, right? You can procrastinate. So moving into your entrepreneurship journey, very curious, because corporate life has structure, it's got predictability. Entrepreneurship doesn't. So what surprised you most when you made that shift? And were the moments you thought, oh my God, I feel so blocked, and how did you move forward?
Yeah. I think the biggest lesson of the transition is nobody's coming. That you are the CEO, you are chief everything officer. You have to have your eye on from marketing to procurement, all the corporate functions we know so well. And you start to appreciate what a corporate, that you have worked in large organization, how comfortable, despite all the politics, despite all the things that we blame, how it's slow and politics, so on and so forth, but you felt always soft. Someone's always there to catch, and everyone's replaceable. Only entrepreneurship, especially when you start as a solopreneur, we started as a duo. There's one person to catch you probably, and that's it. No one is coming to you, so you better up your game.
Put up your game. Love it. Love it.
Mm.
And look, for the listeners out there, a lot of people, no doubt, they feel, comfortable in their role. They're in a corporate role, but they don't necessarily feel fulfilled. So to the folks who are listening who feel stuck but safe today, what's one step that they could take this week to start creating options for themselves?
I think to understand what does stuck mean, I think stuck feels so, there are so many layers why one could feel stuck. And I believe usually stuck is a form of overwhelmingness. Is, for example, if you say, when I was 15, I felt stuck because I was, and I really was stuck because I knew I have this huge potential and I am in an environment who does not appreciate me. So it was, and it's impossible to change myself and I don't want to. So the only option is to move. There was no other option. So the other stuck option would literally, I probably even took my life probably to that extent because I felt so desperate. But for everyone else now, like in our more advanced adulthood, what does stuck mean? Is it you feel that in your company, despite of various trying, you cannot move forward professionally? Or is it I am already at top of my corporate game, but I don't feel the meaning, the mission, what legacy am I leaving behind? That's rather a life question. Or I feel stuck because financially, everyone's so dependent on me because I'm the main breadwinner, but I am drained. I hate my job, but I can't leave. I think to define one's stuck, to get the clarity out of that, it's number one step.
Yeah, that makes sense. The clarity of where you are and where you want to be, and maybe find an organization like Elevate who can help you then get to that next step. Lovely.
Yeah, and I think after that step, you can digest. You can then do the next step. Okay, now do I create secondary income, or do I take a smaller job, or what are other options? I think without the step one.
Yeah. So you've had an amazing career so far, and you're still very, very young. But if you could go back and speak to your younger self, maybe your 15-year-old self, what would you want her to understand about what's possible?
It's very tough because the 15-year-old wouldn't understand. This is something. This is if even if I would tell my 30-year-old, and I can see my 50-year-old telling my the 42-year-old, this is gonna happen. I would be like, no, it's not gonna happen. I'm stuck, and therefore, it's always easier because whatever I know today is with the knowledge and experience I have now. And going back to the 15-year-old, if I can do that, I probably tell her, you will figure it out. You will figure it out, and time will show you that you will figure it out. You have to have that blind trust in you that, that with everything that you have survived and strive, and despite of all the adversity, and I can say this to any woman or anyone who wants to reinvent themselves, that if you go back to your younger self, there are so many things ahead of you. You can't possibly, whatever belief or disbelief you hold to yourself can't possibly be true. So your time will come. You just have to be patient and trust yourself enough that you will figure it out.
Believe in yourself, trust in yourself. Love it.
It's very, it's so easy. It's
easy to say.
It's so easy to say. It's so difficult to even our adulthood to embrace.
I know. Look, we're going to finish with a quick rapid fire round, just short, instinctive answers. Don't overthink it. So, first question: what was the hardest corporate label you had to let go
of? To let go that people think I am impressive because of my title.
Okay, so it was the identity associated with
the identity,
title.
Correct.
Okay. Second question, what's one unwritten corporate rule you had to unlearn to succeed as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, nobody's coming.
No one's coming. No cavalry.
No cavalry.
All right, awesome. Third question, at the start of reinvention, clarity or courage, which mattered most?
I think when you do it older, when you're more mature, clarity is more important. And when I was much younger, I think courage is more important.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Fourth question, if you had to start from zero tomorrow, what would be your first 3 steps?
I think number one, I'll do an ikigai exercise. As in for everyone who doesn't know what you are good at and what you enjoy doing and what makes money. And then find out that middle. And then second, I will go to my network of 5 trustees, as in people I respect highly and people that I know me well enough as well, who hold a critical view of me as well, could even be my enemy, to pitch what I think that I want to do the next and to get their opinion, but only these 5 people.
Yeah.
And then start. Yeah.
Start. Awesome. All right. And in one word, what defines success in your life by design today?
Autonomy.
Ah, okay. Nice. And finally, if someone listening today is successful but quietly knows they need to reinvent, what would you say to them?
Clarity first.
Yeah. Awesome. Jingjin, thank you. That was such a powerful conversation. I absolutely loved it. And to our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on where you might be ready to reinvent, because reinvention doesn't start necessarily with a big move. It starts with a decision. If you enjoyed this episode, do follow Reinvention by Design for more conversations with leaders who are building new paths, new income streams, and new ways of working. Thank you.